Hi everyone, and welcome to our first live session for DES 305, Web Portfolio Design. I am your instructor, Shannon McNair, and I'm really excited to teach this course. I love Muse, and it's one of those great new web design programs. I feel that it kind of takes some of the fear of web design and puts it in its place, because Muse is is one of the easier programs. I wouldn't say it's an easy program, especially if people haven't worked in it before, but it's one of the easier programs. It's a little bit easier than sitting there and handwriting code, which is good. It kind of works like InDesign in a way. So some people feel a little bit more comfortable in Muse than they might in Dreamweaver, which is why it's so much more fun to teach this course. So I'm definitely excited that I get to teach it this month. I'm going to turn on my camera for a second just so I can say hi to everybody. All right, welcome. Usually when I host my live sessions, I'm upstairs. It's a little bit lighter, but tonight I'm in the downstairs office in my house, so I apologize for how bad the lighting is in the video this evening. But I just wanted to welcome everybody in person, let you know I'm a real person who's teaching you, and just kind of let you know who I am. I am a graphic designer and a web designer. I have been working in the field for almost 20 years now. My first job was back in January of 1998, so that 20-year anniversary is definitely coming up really soon. I live up in Massachusetts with my family and my dog, Gohan, which I posted a picture of in the announcements. He usually comes to our live sessions, but he's upstairs with my husband right now because my husband is having dinner, and there's always that opportunity that somebody's going to throw their food all over the floor for him. But I just wanted to say hello, welcome you to the course, and I hope you guys enjoy this mod and have some fun with this class. We're going to be making portfolios. This is really going to be, a lot of this work is going to be about you. So this should be a really fun course for you to take. There was a survey that I sent out. If you have not seen it in your email, it's in the announcements, and I would like everybody to try to take that by tomorrow. It's just so I can get an idea of how familiar everyone is with Muse, how you feel about the program, how much experience you think that you've had with it. And if you've never had or never taken a course with Muse before, that's okay. I'm going to do a lot of refresher stuff the first few classes, and I'm really going to be going at a kind of step-by-step pace, and I'll definitely show you what I'm doing. I think that that'll make this program a little bit less scary for you, and I always like to cap off this mod doing a big refresher of everything that we've done. So hopefully that will ease a little bit of your fears of doing web design this month, and why don't we get started? All right, so our agenda for today, I'm going to go over some welcome and introductions, go over some announcements, the syllabus, grading, Canvas. We'll go over the objectives of the course, and then we are going to get into Muse, and we'll talk a little bit about using Photoshop to mock up a website. So that's our agenda for today's live session. My office hours and telephone hours are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Mountain Time to 4 p.m. Mountain Time. However, the best way to get in touch with me is via email. I'm pretty quick to respond to my emails, except at night. I go to bed very early because I have a 3-month-old daughter, and we're definitely trying to get her to bed early, and she does wake up early for her first bottle. So you might find that you get a lot of emails from me at 6 a.m. That's because I am up. So if you email me later at night, you can usually expect a response the next day. If for some reason you have not heard back from me by the next day, try sending me another email. It's not very often that I don't get back to students within 24 hours. And make sure that you are going into, this is a good segue to just pop over into the course. Make sure that you are going into the introduction discussion this week. I wish this showed up on the main page like the rest of our discussions do. I think it would be so much easier, and I think more people would take part in it if it was right down here in week 1. To get to it, you have to go into modules and then kind of scroll down to introduce yourself. But I have a couple of questions if you're not quite sure, what to say in your introduction. You can just say your name, your location, what your major is, your experience with the graphics applications. Are you running Adobe CC 2017 right now? I'm running Adobe Muse 2017.1. Muse has a tendency to upgrade in increments like 0.0, 0.1, 0.2. So you can check and see what version of Muse you are running. I'll show you that on the next slide. And then you can even talk a little bit about your career goals. So I've already posted in the introduction, and it looks like Erin has posted in the introduction as well. So just say a little bit about yourself. The topic for this is, how do you self-promote? So that's, a really good topic to discuss with your fellow students. How do you get your own work out there, seeing as the topic for this mod is web portfolios. So, that's a lot of, we all seem to self-promote on Facebook, on Behance, on some people make their own websites, and that's what we will be doing. So let me jump back into here. So to show, to figure out what version of Muse you are in, you can go into the program, go to Adobe Muse CC, About, and that'll bring up this little bar, and mine shows the 2017.1 release. So that is the version of Muse that I am running. And always make sure that you check your Creative Cloud and check the apps to see if you do have any updates to your programs. If you haven't updated to 2017, the 2015 and the 2017 version really look the same. There might be a couple of differences, but in all honesty, I can't think of what they are on the top of my head. So if you are running 2015 and for some reason the update hasn't been available to you, and if you've run into anything where you might get confused or you're having trouble finding something, just let me know, because I can definitely research that for you. All right, so let's talk about due dates in this course. So all assignments and assessments are due by Saturday at midnight for full credit. I do accept late work. I have this down that I will accept it up to 1 week after the due date, and you will start off at a B. If it's been later than a week and something has come up and you have been communicating with me, I will accept late work. Communication is key with me in my courses. If you've ever had a course with me in the past, you will know this. If something comes up this week and you're super busy at work and you might need through Sunday to get your assignment and your assessment done, send me an email sooner rather than later. I am the type of instructor that will work with you to ensure that you get the best grade possible. I just need to know what's going on. I will repeat this multiple times throughout the course, but week 4 assignments cannot be turned in late. I have no control over this. The course will turn into a pumpkin. It will lock you out and you will not be able to upload. I'll really beat this home on week 4. Your original discussion posts are due by Wednesday at midnight, and you also need to respond to 2 of your fellow students' original posts by Saturday, and make sure that you're posting on 2 different days. This one I'm very adamant about. I will not accept late discussion posts past the Saturday deadline for that week. The reason why is everybody has moved on to the next week's discussion. The discussion is for you to get in there, talk things over with your fellow students, and it's all about participation with each other throughout the week. So once everybody's moved on to week 2, nobody is in the week 1 discussion anymore. So you really need to get those in on time. Those I will not accept late. So just keep that in mind. If you are late with your Wednesday post, I will accept your original post up until Saturday at midnight. I'm just not going to accept it after Saturday at midnight. If you do need any clarification on my rules regarding due dates, please get in touch with me, and I will go out of my way to make sure that everyone understands these rules. All right, so our course objective. So upon successful completion of this course, this is a little bit, the wording of this course is a little bit weird, I will say, because we're using Muse and it sounds like we're writing HTML when you read the course objectives. So I always like to kind of clarify this for everybody. We're going to be designing a responsive HTML-based portfolio website, but we're not actually writing the HTML code. Muse is an HTML-based program, just the code is doing its thing in the background and you don't need to fiddle with it, which is great. We will discuss and evaluate strengths and weaknesses of design styles. We'll develop a strategy to implement advanced interactive methods to achieve an engaging user experience in the portfolio website. We'll implement social media networking methods to increase visibility to potential employers or clients. We will select best projects to feature in the portfolio website. Prepare a mock presentation of the portfolio website for potential employers or clients, and demonstrate the ability to upload the responsive HTML-based portfolio to the internet. And again, that's another great thing about Muse. You can literally publish a Muse website with the click of a button. It's probably the easiest way to publish something to the internet is through Muse. I really, there are some things that Muse can't do, and there are some limitations of the program, and you'll probably run into that when you're trying to design something. You'll sit there and shake your fist at the screen and say, why isn't it doing this? I just wanted to do this. If I could just write the code. I run into those problems as well, but honestly, I really do like it as a program. It's a great way to kind of, you get, what you see is what you get with the web, which, has really come a long way. All right, so let's take a look at some web design through the years. I love to show this site when I teach my web courses. I'll just open it up in a new link. This is a HubSpot article. It's a couple of years old, I think, at this point. But it's a look back at 20 plus years of website design. And it's so cool to see how far we have come in 20 years. Because like I said, I've been doing graphic design for almost 20 years. And this must have been published back in, 2000 and something or another. I wish I put a date on this. But this was the very first website, which is not much to look at when you see it. So it was just extremely text-based. There are some hyperlinks. Not much to see here, not much going on. They let you know how you could get the code. How you can help to support this thing called the web. It explains what the World Wide Web is, and it's so funny when you look at this. And this site is actually still it's still active. It's still available. You can still go there. I don't remember I think it's the URL might even still be the same. So it's just so interesting to see that this was considered the height of technology, this web page. That was the craziest thing that there ever was. Then we had, you know, in the mid 90s, what they call the Middle Ages, which I love that, of web design. And this is the Apple homepage from the year I graduated from high school. So if you saw a homepage like this right now, what are the chances that you would buy a product from this site? So that's kind of something to keep in mind when we're designing our sites. You know, there's definitely a look and a feel that can date us or make us look sketchy on the web. So you really want to be aware for that reason of how you are designing things. You know, there's a lot of gradients going on in this. We don't really design with gradients these days. A lot of reverse boxes, some very 90s looking buttons. You know, these, again, the gradient edges on the images, like gradients were the thing that, you know, Photoshop had come out and people figured out how to make a gradient and they thought it was the coolest thing ever. You know, even the fonts that are chosen, you know, just this very basic Times New Roman, some Arial. So, you know, the look and feel of this is definitely dated. It's definitely 1997. Next, we had the Renaissance or Rebirth, which again, still looks very 90s. So this is probably more late 90s, early 2000s, I would say. And whenever I show this web page, I always tell people, can't you just see it in, you know, like step back in time and watch yourself putting your mouse over these buttons, and you know that these buttons were probably GIFs that rolled over, and like this gradient ball probably like zoomed down here and was like zoom, zoom, zoom when you rolled over those buttons, because rollover effects were a huge thing in the late 90s, early 2000s. And we do still do some rollover effects, but it's clearly more stylized, as you can see up here on the navigation on this site. This was probably also a very, very rudimentary Flash site. Then in the early 2000s, there was an increase in the support for CSS, which separated that content and design. So the HTML was on one sheet, the CSS was on another. So again, you're noticing more cleaner designs as we get into the early 2000s. So that other site was probably the more late 90s. You know, this still, just the image alone feels really dated. But this is getting closer, at least, to, you know, where we are today. Then we have this site, which you may be saying to yourself, well, this looks pretty modern, and it is. However, this is a Flash-based site, which a lot of websites are kind of stepping away from Flash. And if I had some people here, which I know this is a kind of a tough time to come, it's like dinner time and people are getting out of work for our live sessions. But, you know, the thing that did in Flash was actually Apple and the iPhone and the iPad. They decided not to support Flash, and all of these Flash-based sites no longer worked on Apple devices. And, you know, people thought, well, we'll see, you know, how well this Apple iPhone or this Apple iPad does before we start redesigning everything and we change the way we do things. And guess what? It sold pretty well. And websites had to fix their sites or risk not being seen. So, you know, that's where Adobe Animate came from. Adobe Animate is actually the rebirth of Adobe Flash. And today, again, a much sleeker look, you know, kind of minimalistic colors, more using large images as the bulk of the color on the screen. Just very stylized, lots of airy open white space, This is definitely a site that would begin to collapse and be responsive, which means that it would start to close up on itself as the web page shrinks. So you can see that this is a responsive website as well. You hit the tablet size and then the mobile size. So it used to be that these websites did not respond, and you would have to load a mobile version or a desktop version, and designers would have to build two different sites in order for it to be seen on cell phones, and tablets, and for it to be seen on the desktop correctly. And now we've gotten into the habit of designing responsive sites, and those mobile sites are just a thing of the past. And that's where we leave off for today. So you can see how far we've come from this to this. It's pretty crazy in just 20 years. So just some thoughts on layout going into this course. Even though we aren't coding with HTML, I feel that it's really important to understand the different sections of your website. And to speak a little bit about HTML5 and the different elements that define different parts of a web page. So I'm just going to go into presentation mode for this. So a typical web page has these 5 elements on it: a header, which defines a header section; the navigation, either a section which is a section or an article. It literally defines a section in a document, or the article or main area; and a side, which is a sidebar; and a footer. So when you are designing in Muse, you want to think about at least the header, the nav, the main, and the footer. Those should be the ones that you should really be thinking of. And let me go to the next page so you can see where they're located. So when you put them all together, you would get a layout similar to this, which is your header up at the top, your navigation. This is something that I've created. This is a hero image and hero text. So that could be, your section. You can name it the hero section. Then you would have your main content and your sidebar and your footer. So this is just a typical layout. And the reason why things are laid out this way and we don't see our navigation at the bottom of the page, and when you start off on the home page, you have to scroll all the way down before you can go to another page. Because as a user, that's not what we're used to seeing. Sometimes we see navigation going vertically down the side, or we also see it down at the bottom. So if you get down to the bottom, you can get to the next page, without having to scroll up. But the main navigation is somewhere logical for a user to immediately navigate to the page that they want to go to. And the footer is always down at the bottom. It's the foot of the page, kind of like your feet. They're down at the bottom. So before we get into this, why don't we hop back over into the course and just kind of poke around our course for a moment. I want to go over some announcements that I've already posted in the course, and the announcements are the way that I communicate with you. Everything important that has to do with this course, you will find an announcement for it. So the first one that I posted, I found that there are a lot of students who have benefited from doing this, and it's putting the Canvas app on your smartphone. So if you can, download and add the Canvas app for your smartphone. This will help you to get those daily checkpoints done each day and to keep you up to date on the announcements in the course. So I provided a link to the Apple and the Android, and there's some, you'll just have to follow the steps to find the Independence University Canvas once you get in there. I haven't done it in a while, but I feel like you might need to know this URL, the cee.instructor.com. I feel like there was something like that you needed to know. All right. Some of the other ones you can read yourself, like my welcome. I provided a larger Independence University logo. The last time I taught this course, it was brought to my attention that the logo available in the downloads for it's either the assignment or the assessment is kind of small. So I've provided you with a larger logo to use, so that way you're not placing something low res. So you can feel free to grab that from this announcement. We have our learning coach this month is Christy Paulson, and she's awesome. I love being paired with Christy for my courses. She has hours this week on Wednesday and Thursday, and all of her hours are Mountain Standard Time. So she's available Wednesday from 12 to 7 p.m. and Thursday from 12 to 5 p.m. And her contact information is available on this sheet. But if she's not available, you can get in with the learning coaches if you do need extra help. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. Here's a link to that Muse survey. If you would like to take it, it's just 10 quick questions. They're just pretty much yes or no questions. Have you used Muse before? What's your technical proficiency? Are you a novice? Are you intermediate? Do you consider yourself an expert? And if you've never used Muse, feel free to check that off. Have you ever written or edited HTML? How do you rate your technical proficiency in HTML? How do you rate your technical proficiency in Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign? You know, are you excited to take this class? And if it's not a yes or a no, you can type out your response below, and then just your name and your email. So I'd really appreciate if everybody can take that survey. It's gonna make it a little bit easier for me to gauge the level that you guys are at. I noticed so far that a lot of people have said, you know, I am a novice. I've taken a Muse course before, but it was a long time ago. So I am going to provide a really good refresher for everyone. And if you feel that you are a bit more of an expert in Muse, that is okay. I would love to see you kind of push the envelope with what you can do each week. So I'm kind of, sometimes that leaves me in between a rock and a hard place with how I teach, and I tend to teach more towards those that are a little bit more of a novice in the program. I figure it's better that I over-explain myself than have students who find that they are lost in the programs. So I do apologize if you feel that you're more of an expert and the pace in the live sessions when I'm doing my demos is not that advanced. I just want you to keep in mind that, you know, some people that have only taken one Muse course and it might have been a while ago, and I just want to make sure that everybody has the same chance to get an A in this course. And that's about it for announcements. You can read the rest of them that are in there. So again, if you need to get in with the learning coaches, you can go to the Student Success Center. And the login instructions are available in this purple blackboard graphic. So just click here to get the instructions, and then you would click here to enter the Student Success Center. So if you aren't quite sure what to do, follow the instructions here, and then you would actually log in over here. I always wish that one opened up in a new tab because it kind of navigates you away from the course. And we'll go over opening up web pages in a new tab this month. That's one of my pet peeves when I'm on the web. You know, certain web pages, when they open up in the same tab and it navigates you away from where you are. We're going to go over why that's such a pain. And this was one of those instances where that popped me out of the course to a completely different place, and now I have to hit the back button to get back to where I was. You can find the live session videos in the live session tab after they've, you know, downloaded, they've, you know, kind of done what they need to do on my screen, and then I upload them to YouTube. I will post the links for you here. in the instructor-led live session part. I also always post them in the announcements, and I also give you a link to view my slides, because some people like to go back and reread my slides and reread the notes that I have on them. So I always share both of those for you. But then the slides will only be available in the announcements. I can only post live session videos where the live sessions go. If you need computer support, the library, the readings and videos can be seen here. We have lynda.com tutorials for this course, and lucky for us, I double checked to make sure that they appeared to have updated the Muse content. Last time I taught this, they hadn't updated the Muse videos yet, and they were definitely teaching in the videos were in a very old version of Muse, and I was very surprised when I saw that. So a couple of students were a little bit confused after watching, but when I went in this time, it looks as though all of their Muse videos have been updated, and their version of Muse looks exactly like your version. I wasn't able to tell if they had updated from 2015 to 2017 because, like I said, both versions look exactly the same, but you can at least tell that they're not working in the old, I think it was like 2013 version of Muse. So we've got that going for us, this mod. What else can I show you? Let's take a look at our discussion for this week. So we're going to be discussing animation and interactivity. Now make sure each week that your discussion post has APA cited content that is worth 5 points. And I will post a link to Citation Machine to help you with making those APA cited citations. Citation Machine, it's free. It's not the best website. There's a ton of ads on it, but it does make the citations for you, which can make your life a lot easier. So our prompt for this week is you are to locate 2 portfolios of professional designers or companies who use animation and or interactivity well. Explain why the animation and interactivity is well designed. Identify the types of animation and interactivity being used. How will you implement animation or interactivity in your website? And then include a URL to these well-designed portfolios, so that way your fellow students and me can check out the portfolio that you're talking about. Then I want you to locate one bad portfolio. So this one will be, sometimes this can be a little bit more of a challenge, unless if you have a website on the top of your, right at the top of your head. Explain why the animation and interactivity is poorly designed in this website. Identify the types of animation and interactivity being used, and explain how the animation or interactivity can be improved. What would you need to remove from it, etc., etc. And then include a URL to that poorly designed portfolio. And then I want you to also discuss how much animation or interactivity is just too much and why. So for your citation, you might use articles that show examples of animation and interactivity used well, or what to avoid. So that's something that you can use for your APA citation. In your response posts, explain why you agree or disagree with the well-designed and poorly designed animation that your classmates have selected. Provide a suggestion on how the poorly designed animation can be improved, and discuss if you see yourself implementing the well-designed animation effects in your website and how you might do that. So there's a lot of different things that you can talk about this week. And I think that this is kind of fun. I like looking at examples that other people have done. When you've been doing graphic design as long as I have, sometimes you're just like, man, I need some inspiration. I have these great ideas. I'm just not quite sure which one I should go with. And I look, that keeps me up to date, checking out what other people are doing. It keeps me up to date and keeps my finger on the pulse of what is hot in design right now. Because when you've been doing something for 20 years, it's very easy to kind of get yourself just stuck in the same old way of designing things and never progressing as a designer. And that's when you're going to start losing jobs. It's really important to kind of stay up to date with, I know it sounds cliche to say it this way, but to see what the kids are doing, and there's a lot of great design out there. So I like to check out people's portfolios on Behance. I like to follow people on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, that are just great designers, and just see what they're posting, see what they're doing every day. It really keeps me up to date with what's going on. So, here's my post. I'm the first person to post this week, so you can put in. I don't always talk about the prompt. I try to give you in my discussion post like some extra information to kind of help you in the course, or to help you understand the topic that we might be talking about. So you won't always see from me, my favorite website, or a website I don't like. Sometimes I do post stuff like that, but I try to give you a little bit more of a history and background on what it is that we're discussing this week. All right, so let's take a look while we're in here at our assignment for week 1. So we're going to be designing a website. I know, crazy, seeing as we're in a Muse class. Just kidding. Sometimes when I'm alone, it's been a long day. Watch out. Watch out if you're in my live session. I might crack horrible, not funny jokes, but what can you do? So we're going to be designing a website usually requires having a strong understanding of HTML, CSS, and other programming languages such as JavaScript, Java, Python. There's so many of them out there now. In addition, you have to master an application such as Dreamweaver. However, Adobe Muse changes this. Muse lets you design websites without having to manually enter code. This saves you time and creates a professional website. So over the next 2 weeks, we will be creating a 2-page website for Independence University Graphic Arts program. This website will showcase the different degree programs Independence University offers, the potential careers, and the applications students will learn. This week, we will create the homepage. This design needs to be original and not similar to the current website. So part 1 of this assignment, you're going to do a website homepage mock-up. And you can use either Photoshop or Illustrator to design the interface. You're going to choose a color theme, but you should probably keep the Independence University colors in mind. And Adobe Color CC is a great place to create and find color schemes. We'll go over that. You're going to include the Independence University logo. This is that logo that I told you is a little bit small, so you may want to use the one in my announcements. It's a more high-res logo. Then you're going to export your design as a PDF, and that's what you're going to submit to me. And you're going to name your PDF DES 305 Assignment 1 Part 1, your first and last name, or you can do your first initial and last name. Make sure you save a copy of your native Illustrator file or your native Photoshop file. But you're not going to create any copy for this website because this is going to be provided to you in part 2. Here's part 2. So in Muse, create and design the master page based on the design that you created in Photoshop or Illustrator. You're going to name your page homepage, create a second page and name it degrees, and we will return to that page in week 2. Then you're going to create the header and include the Independence University logo. You're going to add an interactive menu and add different color states for normal, rollover, mouse down, and active. You're going to include the footer from your design mockup. and using public domain images or your own images, you can locate 4 images of adults working with computers. These images should connect viewers to the topic at hand, in this case, getting an associate's or a bachelor's degree in graphic arts. And then you're going to place these graphics in a folder, and then we will place them in our website in this week's assessment. So you're going to add the text that's available in this download to use on the homepage, and then you're going to name this file TES 305 Assignment 1 Part 2, again, first, last name, and submit both Part 1 and Part 2 to the assignment to be graded. So make sure you're really reading over the rubric for this assignment. And for the assessment is pretty much a continuation of the assignment. You're going to compare advanced slider widgets and choose one for the home page. Identify and implement interactive elements that follow current best practices in web design, and choose and implement a third-party plugin to use. So now that we've designed the home page, we need to add animation and interactivity. So for this assessment, you will select a slideshow slider and a third-party plugin to add to your home page. You're going to complete the following this week. Select a slideshow slider and place it on your home page. Design the slideshow slider using the images that you selected in the week 1 assignment. You're going to determine the slideshow slider options, and then after watching the live lecture, you're going to use this Muse widget website right here, and you're going to pick a widget. We'll go over that in a second, to download and implement a third-party plugin for the homepage. So you want to download one that's free, and I'll show you how to find the free ones. So make sure you're selecting a third-party plugin that enhances the homepage, and then you're going to name your Muse file DES305 assessment last name, and you'll zip that and submit it for grading. So once you have finished the assignment, you're working in the same file for the assessment. So make sure you save your assignment. You're like, all right, my assignment is done, and upload it before you get started on the assessment, because you're gonna be constantly working within the same file. You don't want to have multiple Muse files, even though they will be named differently. In all honesty, you can do a file save as. What I would probably do is, I'll show you how to do this the best way possible, but I'll show you that when I get into Muse. Because I don't like when they have you rename things, I'm not going to lie, between the assignment and the assessment. Just because it can get a little bit confusing, because they're both your website and they're both your homepage. So I'll just kind of show you how to fix that. All right, so this is that link with those widgets. And one thing happened during the upgrade, I think it was from Adobe CC 2015.0 to Adobe CC 2015.2, where third-party widgets started to not work in Muse. Like, Adobe wrote all this code that was basically like, hey, we don't want you using third-party widgets, which really made it difficult the last time I taught this course, because some people had upgraded, like myself, to 2015.2, and the widgets weren't working correctly. Only a handful of them were, and then other students hadn't, and the widgets were working fine for them, but then when I opened up their website in my version, it wasn't working. Oh, it was a nightmare. So I believe that these ones should work in 2017. If we run into that problem again, don't worry. I am not going to take off points if things aren't working, and they should be working. As long as you've loaded it in correctly, you've done everything you were supposed to do. We'll try to find a workaround to get this to work. So you want to filter this by free, because we're making a fake website for the school. You don't want to be spending money on this. Here's some things that I think would be good. The Facebook like button. Why not use that one? The scroll to the top button, why not use that one? These are things that add something to the page. This thing that says, you know, page preloader, this has to do if your page has a ton of images. You don't really need that. Google Analytics, you don't need that. Go to the top master, you don't need that. I wouldn't use gradient text because we were just discussing how, you know, we don't want our website to look dated, and I think that's really going to date it. You clearly don't need an age validation of 18 plus. This website should be available to everyone regardless of age. So I would suggest maybe the Facebook like button, and you can link that like button to the Independence University Facebook page. That would be good. Depending on how much information you have on your page, down at the bottom doing a scroll to the top, which sends the user back up to the top, that would be good. I feel like a counter is very 90s, so maybe not that. We're not using any audio in this. Yeah, so really, a lot of the stuff is like SEO related. You know, I think the first page has disable right click. Why? Why would you even want to do that? Although I will say this, I think that Google Maps has done that, and I found it highly annoying this morning. So yeah, so I think night sky container, I'm pretty sure it's just going to make a night sky on your page, and I don't know why you would need that. This one, maybe check out this and see what that slideshow does. That could be something cool. Those are a couple of examples that would probably be the best examples to use, honestly. And there used to be a ton of free ones, but like I said, when Adobe changed the coding in Muse, all of a sudden they stopped working. And it was literally halfway through while I was teaching the course, which put a big wrench in everything for me. So again, make sure that you are reading all of the prompts, make sure that you're reading over the rubric for each thing. I'm not going to mock up an Independence University website for you, but I will mock up a website so that way you can see, and I'll do some of the same things that you need to do in your assignment or your assessment. I just try not to do the exact same thing that you guys need to do, because I know when I'm watching somebody do something, once I've seen someone design something a certain way, I can't unsee it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I keep putting things in the same spot that person put the things in because it seemed to make the most sense. So I'll do a mock-up for you. It's just going to be on a different topic, basically. But it will have all of the same ideas, and I'll put in all of the same things that you're going to need to put into your site. So that way you can see how to do it. So this was a good little segue into using Photoshop or Illustrator to mock up a home page. I want to go over some best practices for web design mock-ups. I'll make this nice and big for everyone watching at home. Use shapes and shape layers as often as possible, because you can resize them easily without quality loss, and they're good for for later changes. Blending options are your friend. So double click a shape layer and you can do all sorts of effects, such as gradients, shadows, color overlays. It's so much easier to do that when a client, do a color overlay. So when a client later on says, well, can I see that green button as a blue button? You can just click on the color overlay and turn the green to blue. It makes your life so much easier. Believe me. No matter how many times you do something and you're like, this looks perfect, my client is gonna love it, they will say something like, you make the red more red, and you're like, really? Because it's 100% red. I don't know how much more red I can make it, but it'll happen. It'll happen to you all the time. Make sure you're using web-safe fonts on any part of your site with live text. So to do that, use Adobe Typekit, because they offer a large selection of web-safe fonts that you can design with. use different layers for multiple versions of the same page. So if you do multiple page comps, usually just the main content changes while the header, footer, and sidebar often stay the same. So using the folder structure in Photoshop, you could create a folder that has, you know, content front page, content contact form, content entry, and then you can just toggle their visibility when you save multiple drafts. Get your width right. If your target screen resolution is 800 pixels, your mockup shouldn't be any wider than 760 pixels. If your target is 1024 pixels, your mockup should probably not exceed 960 pixels. And a very large number of people these days are using 1024 pixels or higher. So I would probably set up this mockup at 960 pixels wide. Also, number 6, don't reinvent the wheel. Look online at popular layouts. There's a reason that many designers choose these layouts. You know, think about the user experience and the user interface. How is your user going to interact with your site? So that's what I mean about not reinventing the wheel. You know, not putting that navigation all the way down at the bottom. Things like that. All right. So at this point, you should probably be familiar with Adobe Color, but just in case if you're not, we'll go over that. One of the things I want to point out, and I always point this out to my students, is make sure that your Adobe Color is signed in with your Adobe ID. The reason why I point this out, no, sign in, there we go, is one time I accidentally I have 2 Adobe logins for some reason. I do know how it happened. It happened years ago. And one is the login for my Adobe CC accounts, like my Photoshop, my InDesign, my Illustrator. And the other is the login for my Behance, and they are not the same email. And I was using Adobe Color, and it asked me to log in because I haven't logged in a while. And I accidentally logged in with the email that I use for my Adobe Behance account, not the email that I use for my Adobe CC programs. And so I kept making these color palettes, and they were not showing up in, I think it was InDesign. And for the life of me, I could not figure out what was going on. I was like, I'm making it, I'm saving it, it shows it there, and it is not syncing. I must have restarted my machine 10 times. I was yelling and swearing at the machine, and I'm Googling the problem, and somebody was like, well, make sure you're logged in with your Adobe CC ID, and I'm like, of course I'm logged in, and I checked my login. I was like, I am not logged in with my Adobe CC ID. I am logged in with my Behance ID. And as soon as I logged in with the Adobe CC ID, the 45 versions of it that I had saved, thinking at some point it was going to show up, oh, they all showed up at once. So I had 60 color swatches that were all the same. So learn from my mistakes. Don't do what I do. Make sure you're signed in correctly the first time. It'll save you a lot of time in the long run. So, using the color wheel, you can use the color wheel to make your color scheme, but you can also create from an image. So if you wanted to go in and use the colors, let's say from that logo, here we go. The Independence University logo. You can upload that logo, and I have a PNG version of it, so it puts on a black background. A little bit difficult to color match, but I mean, just an idea, like to give yourself a color scheme. You can even go to the Independence University website if you're looking for their color scheme, and maybe go to where is, they changed the website. You used to just be able to get to the graphic design. Apparently I need to provide my information now. Well, they really did change it. Okay. Well, I was gonna say you could take a screenshot, but that's not really gonna work. You can kind of see, red and blue. Think of some colors that might go with red and blue, like a tan might go, a really light gray might go. So after you've colored, done a color sample and you've got those colors, just hit create from color wheel and you can change some of these. Like I'll leave this blue. This one's kind of awful. Which one is it? Here we go. And maybe I'll make like a tan-ish color. That's nice. This blue is really a basic blue. Maybe I'll make a gray. Lighter gray. This is a bit dark. I'm gonna lighten that one up a bit. I like this red a little bit over this red. Maybe I'll make an even lighter. Ah, that was not what I meant to do. Oh, I wish you could go back. I just went to go Command Z. I hit the wrong thing. Oh well, but you can see what I mean. Like you can make your color scheme, hit save. I'm not going to remake this color scheme because this is what happens when I try to talk and do things at the same time. It's like walking and chewing gum. But you can see, save it. We'll pretend that I had this correct. Name it. I would make a folder in your Creative Cloud and call it DES 305. And I'll call this IU bad because it's a bad version of my color scheme. It's a whole lot of gray and one yellow. And there it is. And you'll be able to see that it will auto-populate into Muse, which we will get into in a moment. So again, going over uploading an image from your machine, I have some screenshots for you so you can kind of follow along. Save to your library. Here's a great 34-minute tutorial on Muse. If you haven't been in Muse in a while or you're completely new to Muse, I really suggest watching this. It's the tutorial from the Adobe website. It's really it's a really good tutorial. They kind of do a quick overview of everything, kind of show you what the program can do. And we're going to do a lot of that, over the course of this mod. But if you kind of just want a really quick 30-minute overview, it would really be worth it to watch this. All right. So again, back to what Adobe Muse offers. Adobe Typekit. Typekit has been integrated with Muse, which enables you to select fonts from the Typekit library when you're designing your websites and not have to own those fonts, and the fonts work when you're on the web. The Adobe CC library, so you can, the Creative Cloud library is available within the CC library panel, so you can open that up by going to Windows CC library. The library offers the ability to save color themes in Adobe Color CC and have them at your fingers, and you can also drag and drop images right from that library, which will save you time. All right, so let's get into Muse, and I have a note that says your Adobe should be updated to CC 2017. If for some reason it is not, please let me know. I feel like at this point everybody should have been updated, but I always run into a couple of people who are like, I never got that update. So, just let me know if you haven't gotten the update. All right. So when you launch Muse, one of the things that I like, and it's new with, I think it was new with the 2015.2 version, is there's actually some quick tutorial videos that are shown to you immediately when you launch Muse. And I think that that's really cool because you don't have to go out of your way to kind of find these Adobe videos. So there's a 5-minute one that just shows you, what you can create with Muse. And then there's a 11-minute one on creating a responsive website. So again, really cool that Adobe started doing this in their programs. Makes it a little bit easier for you to kind of have at your fingertips some tutorials if you're getting a little bit confused. I'm going to open up a site that I have created in Muse, and I'll just show you. I'll show you around via this site that I've created. So once you first get into Muse, it's not like Dreamweaver where you're immediately in a page and you just need to start coding that page or dragging, using the Dreamweaver quick code. What you do first is you actually plan out your site. And that means, planning out the thumbnails of how your site's going to be laid out. This is the backbone of your navigation of your site. So you can see I have 3 main pages here, and then off of one of my pages, I have a thank you page. So it's coming off of my contact page. Once somebody fills out my form, they're brought to a page where they're thanked for filling out my form. There's also the master pages. So it's really important to use master pages in Muse. And I apologize for my chair. It's not even my chair, it's my husband's chair, and it sounds like it's about to fall apart. I think I need to get him a new one. It's very loud, and I keep feeling like it might just collapse beneath me. So if I end up on the ground, you'll hear it. But it is, for some reason, really loud. I do apologize for that. So, it is super important to use master pages and put things that are going to remain the same on all of your pages. And there are certain things that should remain the same. Your header area and your footer area. Think about any website that you've seen. Whenever you go from page to page, the header and the navigation almost 100% of the time remains the same. And the same with the footer. It doesn't change from page to page. Those are those static items that just stay where they are. So the first thing that we do when we get into Muse is we design our master page. And Muse has set up areas for your header. It's between these 2 bars, and for your footer, these 2 arrows down here. If by any chance you go to try to drag your header or drag your footer and you can't, what you can do is, let me see. This has happened to me in the past, and I didn't even realize I had hit a couple of quick keys, and I locked my arrows. I think it's hide breakpoints, hide frame images, hide header and footer. I think that's what I did. Yes, I accidentally hit that, and I hid my header and footer. So go to View, Show Header and Footer. If you ever hit that quick key like I did, and I sat there for probably 15-20 minutes, I was like, I do not know where my arrows went. So, again, things that have happened to me that I try to help you out so you can learn from my mistakes. And tomorrow we'll get in to Muse from the beginning and start designing a site right from, step 1. I just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of an overview of the program today, and kind of the easiest way to do that is to open up a site that's already been designed. So this is my header area, and you'll notice within my header I've placed my menu, and you'll also notice I'm on my master page. So I placed my navigation as a menu item, which is a widget. which is located in the widgets library. So my sidebar has pretty much everything that I'm going to be using a lot. There's buttons here, forms. You can actually, you won't even need to code a form. You can just literally drag and drop from the widgets things that you need. Menus, horizontal and vertical, so you can do either or. Accordion or tabbed panels. Your slideshow, there's a widget for it, so you just drag it out and put your images in. Way easier than coding it. There's even some social media icons. You know, Adobe loves to self-promote. Remember how we were talking, how do you self-promote? Well, Adobe does it by adding a Muse widget badge that says, this site was made with Adobe Muse. I don't know why you would want to let people know that, but hey, you can. There's a Facebook like, a follow, comments, Google Maps, Google Plus, which sadly nobody uses, LinkedIn, PayPal, Pinterest, Twitter follow, Twitter tweet, Vimeo, and YouTube. And the Vimeo and YouTube, I believe, might be new in 2017. I can't remember if they were in 2015. However, that is not where you would add your third-party widgets in. Those would go in your library. And we'll go over importing that again. We'll go over that tomorrow. But basically, you just hit the import button after you've downloaded that widget, and it will put it in here. Here's some that I've used in the past that probably, I don't even know if they work anymore. Oh. Let's see. Probably not. This probably does nothing anymore. Oh well. Delete that. So that's where you'll put your third-party widgets, is in the library tab. We were talking about the CC library, so you can pull that up. And again, if you make a DES 305, oh, I have two in here. Here's that color scheme, that IU bad color scheme that I made. Here's an old version with a much better color scheme. There we go. And like I said, you can drag and drop right from here. So if I wanted to add that Independence University, I can just literally drag this in and drop it. You can set up your site with a specific number of columns. You can use the rulers just like you would in InDesign or Illustrator to, you know, set rules for yourself. There is the text. You can, when you're on the text tool, draw a text box just like you would in InDesign. Muse is definitely based off of the InDesign platform. So if you feel comfortable in InDesign, chances are good you'll feel comfortable in Muse. It has a lot of the same feeling. And the toolbar is not overwhelming too. There's only, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tools in Muse. So it's not like you're sitting there with all of these tools to look at and you're like, I don't even know where to start. So again, when you draw a text box, you can use Adobe Typekit. So you can actually get to Typekit right through Muse, which is great. So if you go to where it says web fonts, add web fonts, it's going to pull up Typekit right within Muse, which is awesome. So you don't have to navigate over to Typekit in your browser like you have to do when you're in Illustrator and InDesign. I don't know why Adobe doesn't do this for all of the programs. This is one of the things about Adobe that's been driving me nuts for the last couple of years, is I feel as though the CC library and Typekit work a lot better in the web programs than they do in the print programs. And I don't know why they can't get all of their programs on the same page and have Typekit work the same across all of their platforms. I mean, it's their platform. Adobe Typekit is theirs. So, it drives me bananas that they don't have that consistency. So all you need to do is select a, you can search for a font, select a font, add it right here by clicking the check mark, and it will show up in your drop-down menu. So I would stay away from your system fonts because you'll see it says that they're going to be exported as an image. That means that they're not web ready, and you don't want your text exported as an image. It's just bad SEO, which we will end up going over in this course. You have a recently used font section, so it remembers the fonts that you seem to use pretty often. Your web fonts, you know that those will work fine. And then you have those standard fonts that have fallback. Please don't use Comic Sans. Please, please, please. I just got done teaching typography. Don't use Comic Sans. And you can even set up character styles. You can set up graphic styles, bullet styles. You have your glyphs here, your assets, again, bullet style, you know, numbered, ordered list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and unordered list, which is your bulleted items. You can wrap text around assets and give it some offset if you wanted to. Your alignment is located here. Transforming things, we'll talk about pinning things to your browser or pinning things to your page. That has to do with your placement of items on the page and how they move as your web page hits these things called breakpoints. If you took a Dreamweaver class, you probably made media queries, which is how you resized your page as the site or the browser window gets smaller. In Muse, we use breakpoints, and we will be using a mobile menu. There we go. So you can see your mobile version, your tablet version, and your desktop version. And you can design with layers, so that way you can turn layers on and off. You can lock layers, make things a little bit easier for yourself. Make sure, you know, once you put the things that belong in your master, you save your master, and then you design the rest of your actual content for each page on that specific page. So let's go over to, you know, what you might put on your home page. I have a big hero image, and then I have some smaller images that when you click on them will enlarge, if this is still working. We'll see. This was a third-party widget that I had that set to do that. Let's see, preview. And you can preview right in Muse, and it will kind of show you how it will look on the web. So you can see, you know, you almost couldn't tell how this was set up, my navigation, based on looking at it in my master page, but this is what my navigation looks like. This used to do something. Clearly it doesn't work anymore. That used to do something. Oh, this still kind of works. I think I just never put in the text. So when you click this, the words will enlarge. I was going to say, that's kind of an odd thing that I picked to put there. But you can double check and make sure, you know, your site is working the way you want it to. Good way to use some accordion panels. We'll be doing that this, I think next week we do accordion panels. And contact form. Again, you can design your form with some rollovers. Submit button, you'll do that. We can discuss, you know, setting up some social media icons and why they should open in a new page. So again, you'll set up your whole sitemap here. And then we will start to put these pages together. as in designing the pages once we get our sitemap set up. So we'll do that. We'll really kind of get in and do that probably tomorrow. So I'm going to close out of this. That's just a kind of a quick overview, but I want to definitely, sure, I'll save. I don't know if I did anything, but that's fine. I want to definitely take a look at, again, our assignment for this week. And I'll show you how to set up that mock-up now in Photoshop. I use Photoshop to mock up. Some people really like to use Illustrator. I've just always used Photoshop, so that's what I will continue to use. So again, I was talking about how, you know, you would probably want to make, where did I have that? Your document size. You'll probably want to make your document size in Photoshop 960 pixels wide. And as far as the height goes, that's kind of up to you for how much you want to put into that page. You can, it's a lot easier to keep expanding your height other than expanding your width. So I'm going to go into Photoshop again, because that's how I like to mock up. And I will create a new document. And I'm going to use my web. And it's going to be custom, so I'm going to do 960. Did I have 960? I already can't remember numbers. There we go, 960 by I'll just leave it at 768 for now. And I have one artboard, which I'm just going to name homepage. There we go. Because later on, I believe you only need to make a one-page mock-up of the homepage. But if you were creating multiple mock-ups, it's really good to do them as artboards and then name each page accordingly. Makes your life so much easier. All right. So one of the things that's kind of cool to do is to kind of put a subtle pattern in the background of your website. At least I think it's cool. You can definitely design your page however you would like. But say you wanted to do something like that. I have a great website for you. It's called subtlepatterns.com. And each of these, when you download them, is ready to be added to Photoshop as a pattern. You don't have to actually make the pattern. And they really are subtle. And you can preview them right on the site to see what it looks like. See how it's like this paisley regal background. So some of them are more subtle, obviously, than others. So I always think that this is really cool. Oh, game one. Ha. I like this one. I'm going to download this one. Make sure when you are creating your site that you keep all of your assets together. So I like to keep my folders extremely organized. It makes my life so much easier. Each mod, I make a folder within my Independence University folder for the mod number, so mod 10. I make a folder for DES. I'm teaching DES 305 this week. I have, some of my other stuff that I need, but then I have my week folder. So week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. And within those folders, I have my stuff I'm going to use for my live session, your assignments and assessments when I download them, my discussion posts that I've written out, any art that goes with them, my announcements and any emails that I might have written up. It just makes my life so much easier when I am trying to put together something, or I'm trying to find things. I always know where everything is. So I'm going to name this assignment part 1. Open it up. I'm going to make an images folder. And I'm going to put that subtle background that I downloaded right into that images folder. And I'll open it up in Photoshop. So this is what you would do. You would open up that, that pattern that you downloaded, and you're going to go into Edit, Define Pattern, and it'll keep it the file name, so I'm just going to leave it named Regal, and you'll just hit OK. And then it's in there. And then with your background loaded, what you can do is go to Edit, Fill, and instead of a color or black or white, you fill it with a pattern. And then under Custom Pattern, just scroll down until you find that pattern that you added. And you can hit OK, and there it is. So you got a little pattern on the background. You know, just a little subtle pattern. Pretty cool. I'm going to do, like I said, that hero image up at the top. So I have all of my images. Let me put up a new folder so I can just kind of copy and paste. Go. All right, all my images. So, what I can do is, I know that I'm going to be using these images a lot. There we go. So I can add these images to that library that I created. Remember that DES 305 library that was kind of created for me because I made that horrible color scheme that didn't come out well? But I can add my images there. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to open up each of these images in Photoshop. One of them doesn't work. Oh, my README. Yeah, there we go. And make sure I have my libraries open. Navigate to DES 305. There we go. And I really don't need that Regal background. My logo, it's going to name it whatever the layer is, so you might want to rename your layers, drag them on. Or you can even rename it right in here. Hero image. Then just close them out. So I'm just dragging the layer right onto the library. This will also make mocking up my website a little bit easier because then I can just drag these images in. All right, so I wanted this hero image, so I'm going to drag that in. Place it. There we go. And I'm probably gonna crop that down a little bit, something like this. It's a little bit large. Then I'm gonna need my logo, so I'm gonna drag that in. And my navigation's probably gonna go over here. And I don't really need to type out all of my navigation. I'll probably just, you know, make a layer, name it nav, and maybe make some boxes. Maybe a rounded rectangle shape. Remember how I was telling you to use that shape tool? Color. Oh, I don't want to fill. No fill. Fill it with white. There we go. Definitely didn't want that fill that it defaulted with. And make a copy of that. It can kind of look like my buttons, I guess. I don't know. I'm trying to do this quick for you so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm doing. You can also, and I will tell you if you want to do something like this, you can also go into Muse. If you're kind of comfortable in Muse, make a new document, just a quick one. Make your pages, so home, portfolio, let's say, whatever your pages need to be named, and contact. Go into your master page, go into your widgets library, make a menu real quick. You know, do all of the different states. This is if you feel comfortable doing this, and I'm going to show you how to do this tomorrow. Hit preview, and maybe just take a screenshot of that navigation. That is okay. I'll allow that. I mean, that means that you're really thinking this through and you know how your navigation's going to look in there. That's completely fine. And again, we'll go over how to make this tomorrow. Screenshot's always a little bit bigger. So I've got my navigation in there, and I can pretend like that's where I want it to be. Make a new layer. This is going to be my footer. I like my footer to be black because it really mirrors this. And I'll probably think through, you know, this is where I would put my social media icons. Resize these after I drag them all in. I do everything in boxes. I'll usually like drag a rule and then I will make a marquee box and put it, you know, right here. Drop a rule down, and then I have like the same distance at the top as I have on the bottom. I do a lot of designing and measuring with boxes. I know that seems very weird, but it's one of those things. It's just a little trick that I've learned back in the day. Make sure that anything you're scaling, you want to maintain the aspect ratio. And Muse kind of does that for you, which is great. You actually don't have to hold down the shift key in Muse. And what is a little bit weird is if you do hold down the shift key, sometimes that ends up screwing it up, which why Adobe? Why did you do that to us? We're all used to being told to hold down that shift key. All right, so go. I would probably do a repeat of my navigation. Make sure that you label all of your layers. It'll make your life so much easier. repeat in my navigation. I probably would make it look a little bit different though. Probably clean that up a bit. Actually, probably be easier just to typeset this. And again, if you are going to typeset something, be aware that you're using a web font. So I'm going to use, add a font from Typekit basically, if you already don't have it. Where's my font? There we go. Oh, 117 point. I don't think I need it that big. Okay. So repeat of my navigation and let me save this. Again, putting everything in my Mod 10 folder. Week 1. Where's my name? There we go. DES 305. And always save it as a PSD file first. Don't ever save over that PSD file with a flattened file because you'll have to make changes. It's just that is how it is. You'll definitely have to make changes. You do not need to add the text into your mockup. However, if you want to show where the text might go, which is not a horrible thing, to show that, you can kind of add just some lorem ipsum text. So again, be kind of aware of, your margins here. Give myself a little bit of a margin. And do you want one column? Do you want 2 columns? Do column over here, column over here. A little gutter. And here's the end of my header area. Type, paste lorem ipsum. Oh, I was saying, why can't I see it? And, remember when you're making, when you're adding text, body copy should always be in a regular font, not a bold font. And for the web, don't use a font size lower than 16 points for your body copy. I know that seems large. However, this is a good rule of thumb for web copy is 16-point type. And I will paste for you an article on that. All right, save this. And do a file save as Photoshop PDF. Save. Okay. Save PDF. And close. And always double check your file before you upload it. For things like this. Why? There's only one page. That's bizarre. And if it does something like that, I clearly my artboard should be the correct size. I always hate when weird things happen. I'm sure you guys feel the same way. Yeah, I only have one artboard. That's very weird. Oh well. I'm not going to try to troubleshoot this right now. So yeah, just double check your PDF, and if something weird happens, such as what mine just did, let me try saving it again. Layers. Save, replace. I wonder if I had some sort of a weird thing checked. It's also showing my PSD as being that large as well, and I have no idea why it's doing that. All right. Yeah, so that's kind of weird. Maybe because I have it set up as an artboard. Possibly. I'm gonna try something really quick and see if this fixes it, just in case if anybody else has the same problem as me. My layers. All right, file, save as, PDF. Let's see if this fixes it. If this doesn't fix it, then my Photoshop is just doing something weird. What? Alrighty. So yeah, all right. It's time for my Photoshop to clearly be restarted because this is crazy. There's gonna be something with my artboard that I created. All right. I'm not going to save that. Okay. I mean, If something weird like that happens to yours, don't worry. I'm not going to take off points. I'm sure that I must have checked or unchecked something when I was creating it and I didn't notice it. But what are you gonna do? It's a live show. All right, so that is how I would like you to put together your website mockup, which is part 1 of this assignment. Tomorrow we are going to go over creating the web page in Muse. So we're going to create that homepage based off of the mockup that you created in part 1. And I will make my Muse site based off of the mock-up that I created. We'll be naming that page homepage, and then we'll create a second page off of it. You will name yours degrees. I will name mine something else. We'll be creating a header, and we will also be creating an interactive menu. We will be creating a footer. We will find some images, and if you want to come to the site and work, or come to the live session and work along with me tomorrow, that would be great. So if you are looking for images, so that way you're all ready to go for tomorrow and you want to find those degree images, before you just Google an image. So let's say you need to find, some pictures of maybe people getting their degree. So I'm going to put in degree. You can go to images. You can use Google. You just need to go to tools, usage rights, labeled for reuse. And then under size, I would go to large. And I would not use a sock puppet because that's just weird. So maybe degree, maybe college degree. Although you can use labeled for non-commercial reuse because this is just for a school project. Maybe cap and gown. Student. That's a good one. Computer student. It's a graphic arts program. All right, that's kind of cool. People working. It's a little dated. So you can see, large, labeled for commercial, non-commercial reuse under your images. That's a good place. Another good place to get images is Creative Commons, which is search.creativecommons.org. So here you can kind of say where you want to search from, use for commercial purposes, modify, adapt, or build upon. I want something that can, and then you can enter in, students. And it'll bring up a whole bunch of images that you can use that are commercial use and modifications allowed. So just two examples of where you can find some images for that part 2 when you're looking. If you want to come to the class tomorrow and kind of work along beside me, that's definitely acceptable. What I tell students when they want to do this in the web courses is, again, download the Zoom app and put it on either, your smartphone, or if you have a tablet, so that way you can watch the live session from your tablet while working alongside on your computer at the same time. And you can do the same thing when you're trying to if you work along with the live sessions, if you're watching the recording. What I like to do is I would put the sessions on my tablet, and that way I don't have to flip back and forth between YouTube and, InDesign or YouTube and Muse. I can just watch right from my tablet and work alongside it. And if I need to pause it, I just kind of tap my tablet to pause it. So just a couple of tips and tricks to kind of work alongside the live sessions during this course. So again, tomorrow we're going to go over creating that web page in Muse. We'll start right from right from the beginning, and we'll go over page 1, which is part of the assignment, and page 2, which is the assessment. So if you have any questions between now and tomorrow, remember you can always send me an email. You can come to the live session tomorrow. I hope to see some of you there, but I do understand if, you know, time constraints, you have jobs, you have families. I completely get it. But again, if you need me, just drop me a line, and please make sure that you're taking that survey that I have posted. I really want to see and kind of get an idea of where everyone is at with Muse this mod, and try to get in and do your discussion post sooner rather than later, so that way it's not kind of hanging over your head this week. And I hope to see everybody tomorrow. All right, have a great night, everyone, and I'll post this video as soon as it's ready to go.